Hello, my name is Louise Sherwin-Stark, the CEO of Hachette Australia New Zealand. Before we start, I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which I'm filming from today, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and recognise their continuing connection to land, waters and culture. I would like to pay my respects to their elders past, present and future. Welcome to this virtual event from Hachette Australia, which we hope will give you a better understanding of how publishing works and what career options might be available to you. Due to social distancing, some of this event has been pre-recorded, but we will be answering your questions live from just before 6 p.m. Please do place your questions in the Q&A chat box on Zoom or in the comments section on Facebook. I'm also going to be making some exciting announcements for those looking to get a start in publishing with us here at Australia at the end of the presentation. We're going to head to the pre-recorded section just now, which may take a moment or two, so bear with us. Welcome to Hachette's Guide to Publishing, a virtual event designed to give people a better understanding of career opportunities in publishing, particularly as we've just launched our paid summer internship program and are seeking interested applicants. We had hoped to create a live event, but with social distancing in place, some of this event, including this bit, is pre-recorded. Please do post your questions throughout the presentation, as we will be answering questions at the end of the session, and that will be live. Hachette is a trade publisher, which means we publish books to entertain and inform. The books you generally find on the shelves of a bookshop. Hachette Australia does not publish educational, academic or professional books, but we do import books from our sister companies in London and New York, including books by Stephen King, John Grisham, Cressida Cowell, Maggie O'Farrell and Nora Roberts. We also publish Australian books, including books by Peter Fitzsimons, Jessica Townsend, Natasha Lester, Sean Tan and Babel Parrott. Ask anyone what they think working in publishing means and they will say being an editor. And don't get me wrong, we love our editors, but there are so many different and interesting career options that you may not have considered. This event will loosely follow the journey of a book through the publishing process, from acquiring, editing and producing our Australian books, or curating and importing our international books, to sales, marketing, publicity and finally finance. I've invited specialists and experts from each of these functional areas to talk through what it is they do, what sort of skills are essential, and what they particularly enjoy about their work. The common theme is a love of reading and sharing your passion for books and stories. To get us started, I'm delighted to hand over to Fiona Hazard, our Group Publishing Director. Fiona is going to walk you through how we acquire the books we publish here in Australia.
We acquire a book in two ways. We either receive a manuscript from an author or an agent and read and assess their submission, or we approach a writer or subject with the idea for a book and work it up with them. At an acquisition meeting, we consider how we could work with the author to develop the manuscript, how we'll edit it, how it could be produced and packaged, how many copies of the book we could sell, and how we could promote it. If the publishing team and our sales, marketing and publicity colleagues agree we can publish successfully, we make the author an offer to acquire their book. An offer includes information on the advance and royalties we will pay, the formats we will publish in, and the territories and languages we want to acquire, and our publishing vision for their work. Once the author accepts our offer, a contract is signed and the publication process can begin. Depending on the rights we've acquired, ANZ or World, our rights team may pitch the book to overseas publishers and to film and TV companies. Anything from a media story, a social post, a short story, a magazine feature, or food packaging can lead us to a new writer or illustrator. We've also set up a number of prizes and partnerships we think make the path to publication more accessible. These aim to reach a diverse and inclusive range of writers, and details about them are on our website. Many start out as editorial assistants and work their way up before starting to acquire books. We also have publishers who have experience as journalists in bookselling, communications and sales. You need an excellent eye for spotting and assessing writing talent. You must keep an eye on what readers want and be aware of current trends. You also need great communications and negotiation skills and must be able to listen and encourage your authors, but also give them clear feedback. You also need a great eye for design. Your key relationships will be with writers, authors, agents, talent managers, journalists, influencers, tastemakers, and your colleagues in other departments. Your job is to champion a book from acquisition to publication, and so you must manage all the relationships that ensure a book is successfully published.
As Louise mentioned, editor is the role that comes to mind when you first think about publishing. But do editors really spend all day, every day, with their nose in a book?
Our publisher extraordinaire, Sophie, is up next to reveal more.
A lot of people think of editing when they think of working in a publishing house. I certainly did. I became an editor because I loved to read and I wanted to work on books. I discovered that I love the creation of the book itself, which is part of being an editor. Working with authors is also an intrinsic part of the job, and there is nothing more satisfying than feeling like you are helping an author to bring their work to readers. You might think that being an editor involves long stretches of quiet reading and contemplation. There is a lot of reading, but being an in-house editor is a fast-paced job that involves a lot of administrative tasks and collaboration. Editors work closely with the publisher of a book to help the author in every stage the manuscript goes through to become the text that is printed in the book. The first step is a structural edit, where editors give feedback about the overall structure of the book. In a novel, for example, does the plot make sense? Are the characters believable and well realised? Do the pace and the story keep the reader interested? Once the author has redrafted, the next step is the copy edit. This is a close reading of the manuscript at a sentence level, checking for errors in grammar, spelling, syntax, and punctuation. After that, the book is laid out or typeset and proofread. A proofread aims to catch any last issues like typos or formatting problems. Some of these jobs might be done by a freelance editor, someone who works on a contract basis. But as the in-house editor, you are responsible for organising each step of the process, liaising with the author and freelancer, if there is one, and making sure everything is going to schedule. Knowing the rules of grammar and how to apply them are important for an editorial role. You also need to be able to think critically about how stories work, so it helps if you read widely. On top of that, it helps to be calm, organised, and diplomatic. You might work on up to 25 books a year, but for each author, that book is the representation of years and years of hard work. While I'm a publisher now, I still have some editorial functions in the books I work on, and I still love those. Working on text is a thrill that has never faded over years in the industry, and working with authors is always a privilege. For anyone to whom books are a significant part of their lives, being an editor is a fantastic job.
Thanks, Sophie. There's nothing like seeing one of our books on the shelf, waiting for a reader to pick it up and discover it. But how does a book go from a manuscript to a beautiful object that you can hold in your hand?
Who designs the cover or picks the actor to read the audiobook? Our lovely production manager, Isabel, is going to take us through it.
The production team's job begins at the acquisition stage, when we gather information from publisher, sales, marketing, publicity, and we use it to work out what we need to do to create the final book. We then set budgets and schedules. We negotiate with printers and other suppliers to make sure that the final product is of the highest quality and the best value of money it can be for the reader. After that, we work with the publisher and the editor throughout the publishing process, right up to preparing the final files of the book to print. We create the ebook and audiobook editions and distribute them to digital retailers like Apple, Google, Amazon, and Audible. However, our job doesn't end there. We are responsible for creating new editions, breathing new life into old titles, as well as reprinting popular books to keep them in stock. To be a successful production person, you need to have a good grasp of finance, strong communication, and negotiation skills. You need to be able to juggle different projects which will all ask very different things of you. You should be a visual person with a keen eye for design. Day to day, our job covers a wide variety of work, so having the ability to learn new skills quickly, including learning new software and processes, is key when starting out in production. While you might not be a pro at Photoshop when you start, It won't take long to become a whiz at it, and along with a host of other software that we use. While you don't need any formal qualifications to work in the production department, a background in design, admin, project or account management would be helpful when starting out. One of the great things about being in production is that when you start planning a project, you have great influence on where resources are directed. Obviously, with great power comes great responsibility, and as much as I would love to spend the entire budget of a book on making a flashy cover or hiring a Hollywood actor to narrate the audiobook, we need to find a balance between letting our creativity take hold and making the numbers work. Sure, sometimes you are constrained by the numbers when you are executing the vision you have for a book, but as they say, necessity is the mother of invention. The very best part of working in production is getting to see the finished book before anyone else. It's a beautiful moment of grace when you open a book of advanced copies, literally hot off the press, and you get to take a moment to bask in what your hard work has created. Then you get to excitedly show everyone else in the office, and it never gets old.
Up next is the man with the encyclopedic knowledge of hundreds of books waiting to be discovered here in Australia. He helps curate our international list for our local audience. Welcome Product Executive Trent.
If you like working collaboratively with people in Australia and all around the world, love numbers as well as words, and want to know about all, and I mean all of the books we publish, then Product is the perfect place for you. Product works closely with our international offices to look after all the books they have acquired, which we are going to publish in Australia. This means literally thousands of books each year. Our role is twofold. The first is we act as on-the-ground publishers to champion not only our best-selling authors such as Stephen King and Neil Gaiman, but also breaking out authors that we can see have real potential in our market. While we advocate for all the titles on our list, we do have to decide on those that we are really going to go after. And there are a lot of factors that go into this decision. Some are obvious, such as if the author is very well known and has a track record of big hits, but it's the debut authors or those who have suddenly written something that really resonates that we want to get behind. This can be because the topic is particularly popular in Australia at the moment, or it might be that there's lots of exciting buzz coming from overseas, or it could be tied to a forthcoming movie or TV series. Once we choose these books to really champion, it's our job to communicate this widely, especially to our sales, marketing, and publicity teams. Normally, this is done at our launch meeting, but we do also have our own special picks that we might discuss with the teams directly. The second part of our role is more logistical. We're not only responsible for sharing how great our books are, we also need to import the books so that we have physical copies to sell. This can involve freighting them from overseas, as well as printing books locally in Australia. This process involves us working very closely with our sales team to accurately forecast just the right amount of books to print or to freight. We look at the sales history of previous titles from the author or titles that are within the same genre and similar in style to try and predict exactly what we think a title will sell. By now you've probably realised that working in product combines a lot of different skills. It's truly a place for people who love both the creative and the analytical, and can switch between the two easily. Having experience with Excel and supply and demand will make things much easier, but it's also important to have great communication skills so that you can convince everyone to share your passion for our titles. At the end of the day, I think that's the best part of the job, being able to dive deep into the many hundreds, even thousands of books that come across your desk each year, pull out the really special ones and share that with not only your colleagues, but also the whole of Australia.
Thanks, Trent. Where the product team champions books internally,
Sales Director Dan and his team placed all around the country take the books and the buzz directly to retailers.
The primary role of the sales team is to simply put the right books into the right retailers at the right time. To do that, we start talking to our customers about upcoming books, sometimes as much as 1 year from publication. The sales team deal with a very diverse customer base, from department stores like Big W to independent bookshops and chain retailers like Dymocks. It is our job to make our books and our authors stand out from the hundreds of other books that are being pitched to these buyers at the same time. Sometimes when pitching a book, you will only have 1 to 2 minutes to convince the buyer, so you have to make sure your pitch is concise and targeted to the buyer and their business. Every single pitch you do has to be tweaked to make sure your book is picked ahead of all the other publishers' books. After the amazing pitch and the buyer just has to buy our book, the sales team then negotiates for the book to be featured in catalogues and in-store promotions, all in the hope of maximising sales. For ebook, audio and online retailers such as Amazon and Booktopia, it is a little bit different because they effectively stock all of our titles. So for these online retailers, we submit titles to be promoted and come up with offers to help entice their customers. One of the most important aspects of sales is maintaining strong relationships with your buyers. These relationships, which are the bedrock of every pitch and conversation that you have, need to be built on trust and respect. Sales teams are also involved right at the early stages during the book's life cycle, including the acquisition stage, where they help the publishers to determine whether a book will sell by looking at similar books in the market and by having an understanding of what their customer will buy. Once the book is in the market and selling, we do forecasting to ensure we print the right amount to meet the ongoing demand. Printing and selling the right amount of books is incredibly important, because if we print too many and then can't sell them, that becomes very unprofitable. But on the other side, if we print too little, we may miss out on sales. That is why in sales it is also important that you are numerate, so you can understand sales reports and spot trends. When we are forecasting that one of our titles is going to continue to sell, we support it with additional catalogue features and discounted top-up offers to maintain momentum. The absolute key to being a good salesperson is being a great communicator. You'll have to pitch lots of different books to so many different retail buyers, sharing your enthusiasm for all of them and finding that magic hook that will catch that buyer's attention. You will spend all day talking to booksellers who are some of the most well-read people in the country. So you will need to read widely so that when you say this book is Twilight meets Tim Winton, you can then justify your comparison. But you also can't just be well-read, you need to be passionate about books. So passionate about the amazing books you have just read that you cannot stop talking about them. So if you are one of those people that is constantly recommending books to your family and friends and they actually listen to you, then you might just have the skills to start a career in sales.
Thanks, Dan. Getting the books into the bookstore is the first challenge.
Getting the reader in store, asking booksellers, hey, have you got that book with the black cover and the pomegranate on it? That's the domain of marketing and publicity. Here's Eve to talk you through.
In a nutshell, my team is responsible for all the paid media like print or digital advertising and working with booksellers on in-store promotions. We also create lots of competitions, giveaways, we take heaps of beautiful Instagram photos and so much more. When does marketing start making campaigns plans for books? Well, it's a marketer's job to create early excitement behind a book well before publication. From launch events to social media influencers, capturing early buzz for a new release is key to its initial success. That said, pre-orders are one piece of the puzzle when it comes to a successful marketing campaign. And that brings me to my next question. What makes a great marketing campaign? Books are all about the emotions and the memories we have. When planning a marketing campaign, I always encourage my team to first understand how we connect our human emotion to cut through to the right audience in a meaningful way. What is the most effective way to reach readers? We rely on customer insight and sales trends to get the right books to the right people at the right place and time. We constantly refine our campaigns at a fast rate by using all this data in real time as books land in the marketplace. Then you may ask, what makes a good marketing person? What are their key skills? Well, a great sense of curiosity is key. A good marketer must understand what is happening in culture, really look at trends, that are coming gain a deeper intuition of what will resonate with readers' emotions. Great marketers aren't afraid to try out new ideas. Don't play it safe. Try the thing that no one else in the industry had done before. What's the best part of the job? Well, marketing in the publishing industry is a job that runs on energy, excitement, passion, and genuine enthusiasm for books. Every day and every book is different.
Thanks, Eve. That energy, excitement, and passion is where marketing and publicity tag team to bring the right books to the right reader's attention.
Our publicity manager, Rosina, and our team of publicists partner with our authors on all of their media, live events, and so much more.
If you're a book lover, I'm sure that you will have turned to the book review pages of your weekend newspaper, tuned into a radio program or flicked through television channels and landed on an interview with an author. Or perhaps you've read an interesting article in a magazine or online only to realise at the end that it is an extract from a forthcoming book. It's likely you've attended one of the many incredible festivals and bookshops across the country to hear your favourite writers talk about ideas, issues, and the art of writing. And this is all part of the publicist's role. We are responsible for raising the profile of authors and the books they write by organising interviews, extracts, reviews, feature articles and events across the country. We get to know each book and author really well in order to pitch the most interesting stories about them or find breaking news angles that will appeal to members of the media. We need to have a thorough understanding of each book's intended audience so we can ensure that the media we lock in reaches the right readers. And importantly, we have to build excellent relationships with editors, journalists, producers, festival directors, and bookshops. Understanding the media landscape, knowing what sort of book appeals to each individual contact, and pitching strategically is all just as important in this role as our passion for books, authors, and ideas. It is a wonderful role for a people person, someone who enjoys networking, developing relationships, negotiating, and sometimes a little diplomacy. It involves strategy, creativity, organisation, and a great deal of problem solving. In pre-COVID times, the role also involved touring with local and international authors. We have had to work very quickly and nimbly, along with our colleagues and event partners, to reimagine the ways in which we can connect authors and their readers during this time. But we hope to be back on the road again very soon. Being a book publicist is an incredibly rewarding experience. There's nothing quite like the buzz of seeing your authors on the front page, or watching them interviewed by Lee Sales, or receiving word that their book has been chosen as a great read by a prominent magazine. It is also wonderful being supported by talented colleagues and immersed in brilliant books. And getting to know the authors, their stories, ideas and experiences that have inspired their work is such a privilege.
Thank you, Rosina. And while everyone's joint efforts have combined, from acquiring the rights to that moment a reader places a book on the counter to purchase.
Olivia, our finance manager, does all the checks and balances along the way to ensure that Hachette's business keeps in profit, which in turn allows us to publish great authors, discover new voices, and keep sharing stories.
Anything that happens in the business usually has a monetary impact. So finance helps to ensure the business's money is being put to good use and that the business remains profitable. We do this by providing reports and analytics, as well as assisting with budgeting and forecasting, so that other functions in the business have timely, accurate information to make well-informed decisions. So publishing has been very different to other industries that I've worked in, as there's just so many moving pieces that sort of fit together into this big puzzle, so it just takes a bit of time to sort of understand the bigger picture of things. In terms of skills needed to work in finance, you need to be good with numbers as well as Excel savvy, and knowing basic accounting, so the differences between your P&L and your balance sheets is also key. The best part of the job is seeing our books come to life and seeing how excited everybody gets about them, and getting all the free books is also a huge plus.
Who doesn't love a free book? Wing to camera. Did I just say that out loud?
Yes, Dan, you did.
Thank you to Olivia and to all our wonderful contributors.
And thanks to you for joining us at our open house. I hope you've been posting your questions because we're about to go live with our CEO, Louise.
For this Q&A session, I am joined by Managing Editor Brigid Mullane, and we will be answering your questions for the next 10 to 15 minutes. There have been over 80 questions, so I really hope we can answer as many as possible. If we don't make it to your question, we will circle back later and let you know where to find the answers. Brigid, there were lots of themes of the questions just now. Where do you think we should start?
Yes, I've tried to kind of group them together, so hopefully we can knock off a few people's questions in one sitting. So hi Louise, hi everyone out there. It's lovely to be with you this evening. And one of the logistical questions that's been coming up is how many positions we have for the internship. And then Stephanie also asked what jobs in publishing the interns are going to learn about for our summer internship program.
Sure. Well, this is a paid internship program and we're just looking to have one intern every single year. So if you miss out this year, there'll be an opportunity next year. We're timing it for the summer so that people from university can take a break from their studies and join us, but university qualifications are absolutely not a prerequisite. In terms of what you're going to learn, well, you've just seen a fantastic presentation of all of the different departments, and the internship, you will be having time in every single one of those departments. Now, I did see questions about wanting to specialise in a particular department. We're not going to do that. We're going to offer you a broad publishing education that will benefit you for your whole career in publishing. Because even if you decide that you want a career in sales, understanding what happens in editorial and production will be really valuable to you.
And I think there's a lot of roles that when you're looking at publishing, you don't realise exist. So things like product. So if you're a really good reader, lots of people don't know about the product department, which is a lot of reading and a lot of curation. So I think it's really interesting to get a taste of everything as you go. Gabrielle and quite a few people actually were asking about elements of the application and what components of the personal statement or the CV will help people stand out in the application process.
That's a great question because I think we're going to have quite a lot of applications. We didn't realise how much interest there would be in this event or in the internship itself, which shows that there's a huge hunger for people to learn more. I read a lot of job applications generally, and I think the most important thing to do is, yes, have a CV, that's really important, but your covering letter is actually more important. What you need to do is persuade us that you are the right person for the job. And how can you do that? Well, you can talk about why you love reading. You can talk about how you talk about books. You could really look at publishers' social media to get a better understanding of what we do and reflect what you've learnt by watching social media in your letter. You could go and work in a bookshop for a couple of weeks and like volunteer there, because working in a bookshop is an excellent way to get into publishing. The skills that you learn as a bookseller would never be lost in a jump to publishing. So be honest, be open, share your personality. You know, it's a pitch document. Think of yourself as a book and how would you best sell that book?
There are a few people asking about university degrees and whether they were worthwhile. And I have both the university degree in editing and bookshop experience. And I think in terms of like the actual skills of editing, the degree was great, but in terms of my CV, the bookstore experience was more impressive to people because it meant that you're out among people who buy books and you know what they're interested in, and you've got more of a finger on the pulse in that kind of sense.
Absolutely. And you know what to say when someone says, I don't know what it's called, but it's a blue book. And that is highly valuable.
Or when I was in booksellers, it was on Oprah's book club. That was always the kind of metric. Outside of, Brianna was asking as well, outside of a love of books, what is one or some of the other best skills to bring to a position like this when you're starting out in the industry?
Well, bookselling, as we said, a love of reading, an ability to share that love of reading is really possible. The whole publishing process works from an acquirer to saying this book is great because, and passing that communication down. So presentation skills are really important. Being able to write persuasively is important. You know, we're not looking for brilliant grammar, of course, unless you're an editorial where that is really, really key. But we do look for people who have good voices and can be persuasive in the way they communicate. So I think those skills are really good. Good interpersonal skills, working across departments, working with your colleagues, being able to collaborate is very, very important. So that could just be learned from high school and getting along with your colleagues and knowing how to talk to a teacher politely and engagingly. You know, so those skills are life skills that are really important in the workplace.
And there is a lot of transferable skills from things like retail and customer service, which is dealing with lots of different people, knowing how to speak to people, staying calm, and all those sorts of things that you can kind of, when you're writing the application or writing your CV, spin into a new environment, I think. There's also lots of good clues, I think, on our website about the kinds of books we publish, the kinds of things that we're into. So you can go and look at what international titles we publish. So what Trent was talking about on the product side, or the Australian publishing titles. There's all sorts of little bits on the website and social media that will give you clues about the kind of business we are, I guess. And I always think that's a good way to just plug into what we're about and then be able to talk to how you would fit in with that, or what excites you about that.
There were also a couple of people who were looking to jump from education. And I think education's great, particularly for children's publishing. So I think that's a great qualification and experience to have.
And I think there was some communications people as well in the Q&A, which again is like masses of transferable skills, from writing concise copy to thinking about audiences and things like that. It's just a slightly different kind of very slightly different industry that you're working in.
And you know, career in publicity is obviously a great option for people who've got communication skills. Talking to journalists about books you love is pretty fun.
We've got some questions about COVID. We can't not talk about COVID, unfortunately, at this time, and sending strength and love to everyone in Victoria at the moment. So Sarah and a few other people have asked how the Hachette office is operating with the current coronavirus restrictions, and how might this impact the internship opportunity?
Well, we've thought really a lot about this because we're very keen for the internship opportunity to happen in-house. What we've noticed with COVID is that, particularly for our less experienced members of staff, they're just not hearing what's going on in the building, and you're just not learning as quickly as you once did. So if community transmission goes down, we will aim to have the internship in Sydney, in the Sydney CBD. We've got social distancing in place in the office to make it as safe as possible. And for those of you who are out of state who can get to Sydney, we are looking to see if we can find some discounted accommodation for you. But you do have to be able to get to Sydney, and hopefully in years to come, that will be much easier because it will give you the best possible learning experience. At the moment, we've only got about 15 to 20% of the people in the office, but we are hoping that will improve towards the summer, and that you will get a much better learning experience by being with us.
Someone asked a really great question, and I've just lost their name, unfortunately. So if it was you, thank you for your really good question, and apologies that I'm not crediting you, but someone was asking about the different departments and imprints at Hachette and how they interact, and if you could talk a little bit about how those departments work together.
Yeah, so, well, you've seen all the different departments in the presentation just now, but the truth is that they all work together all of the time. So publishing works really closely with publicity, particularly authors who are local that we can tour, but they also work really closely with product to identify and get in touch with authors from overseas for virtual events, which is a new opportunity right now. So it's very fluid in terms of the collaboration and communication between all of those departments, otherwise it wouldn't work. There are lots of imprints at Hachette. Hachette is a very big company, we're French, and we're most closely aligned with Hachette UK. So we represent all of the Hachette UK imprints and lists here in Australia. And there are about 1,500, 1,600 people in London. So it's a very big organisation, and we publish between 4,000 and 4,500 books a year. So you've got Stephen King from Hodder, you've got Val McDermid from Little Brown. So there's lots of different fantastic authors to seek out from our international lists. Does that answer the question, do you think?
Yeah, I think as well the video shows it how interactive all of those areas are. Like there's just contribution from every single part of the business to get a book across the line. And if you look at, or if you've downloaded the publishing guide from our website, you can see there's a chart of sorts which tries to capture the interconnectedness of all of the bits, but it's even more connected than it seems in that picture.
That's internal connections. Wait till you get to the external.
Yeah, I just couldn't make all the arrows spin in the ways that I needed. But I think the collaborative element of working in publishing is it's a big part of it. Mm. We've got a question from an anonymous attendee, which I think we've touched on a little bit, but I'd like to go into it a little bit more. They've asked about creating connections, specifically as a freelance editor with publishing houses, if you're relatively new. But I think we can talk about the editorial side and then also widen it out, how you create connections with people in publishing if you're looking to get in. Did you have any thoughts on that? I've got thoughts, that's why I asked it.
Do you want to start with the editorial?
Yes, Louise, I would love to, thank you. Well, yeah, I had lots of thoughts about this. I think because I've had lots of sort of peripheral publishing jobs, and that was how I eventually got myself in, which is bookshops and writers' festivals and things like that. And I don't even necessarily think you need to work at a writers' festival or volunteer at a writers' festival, but there's places like the Emerging Writers' Festival and National Young Writers' Festival in Newcastle, where you can just attend and meet people that way. And in terms of freelance editing, you can actually contact Hachette if you are already editing and you're kind of at that stage in your career where you'd like to be on our freelance register. So you can do that through the careers website, and I can get in contact with you about that. But lots of the publishing houses have a way to get on the freelance register. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get work straight away because there's a database, but it is a way to kind of get your foot in the door. Sometimes that's how I got my job at Hachette, was I was freelance editing, and a maternity leave position came up. So that was my entry point after all these kind of peripheral jobs trying to get into publishing.
It's actually really interesting because people say it's very hard to get into publishing. And then when we recruit for roles, we find it really hard to find people. So there's been a big disconnect between us and people trying to get in, which is one of the reasons we're doing this event. And we're trying to demystify publishing for you so you know what opportunities would rise up. Because when we advertise for a product coordinator, we get no applications because no one knows what that is. So we're really hoping that this gives you an opportunity, and reaching out. When I could travel around the country and would meet with booksellers and things, people would always ask me, how do I get in? I'd say, well, please don't ring me, all of you, because there's about 350 of you. But get in touch, reach out, send your CV. We might not be advertising for a job, but a great cover letter and a great CV we'll put on file, and we will keep it for later. And again, bookshops, festivals, watching social media, seeing if you can gain an understanding of the industry through all of our outward consumer-facing contact points, if you like.
And I think as well, if you think about, maybe there is an area that you want to get into, like editorial, but if you think about those other positions, I've got an editor who used to be a sales rep. I've got, once you're in the building, it becomes a lot easier to, if you're in marketing, but you really love editing, I will always accept help from any department that would like to proofread newsletters, or there's all sorts of ways to move across once you're in. So our publishing assistant was our receptionist last year, so she's moved into that role. And I would also think about those other jobs. Don't wait, because when I was trying to get in, I was waiting for an editorial assistant role. And one would come up every 1 to 2 years. Like they're very hard jobs to get. So I think if you think about production, if you like book covers and design and things like that, keep an eye out for those things as well, because once you're in the building, it's a lot easier.
And you should just take any entry-level job and be open to the opportunities, open to the different possibilities that might come up. I've got a science degree. Some of the questions were like,
oh yes, someone was asking about a law degree with something sounded really interesting.
It doesn't matter. I have a science degree, and I was just reading novels all through the night throughout my degree and not really reading my textbooks as much as I should have been. And I got a job as a PA in a publishing house, allocated ISBN numbers from a folder pre-internet, all of that sort of stuff. And I just took what other opportunities came up, and you just never know which way, as you develop experience, your skills and your strengths lie. And you might start off in marketing, but be, identified as someone who's great at talking to journalists. So perhaps that would be, you're really good at presenting, so that maybe move over to publicity. So I just think get in first and then explore, because and the internship is a fantastic opportunity because you get to try every single department, and it might change your mind. I remember I wanted to be a doctor until I saw blood. You're allowed to change your mind. And someone wrote a question, can I get in my 30s? Absolutely. Why not? This internship is open to everyone. There's a love of reading is absolutely a must. But other than that, no, do apply.
Yes, my first in-house job was in my 30s, so can be done. We're sort of coming to the end of the Q&A portion, so I think we will gather up some of the most frequently asked questions, and I will write a response to them that we can put on the internship page. So if we haven't gotten to your questions, maybe check back there midweek, and some of the more logistical stuff we can answer there and keep there, and some of the other questions I'll group together so that nobody's name is on the website, so that we can answer them. But I thought I'd end with a really nice question combined from Olivia and Chloe. So there were two nice ones to end on. What are the biggest joys of working in editing and publishing? And then Chloe asked, do you have any stories about the most rewarding moments from your job in publishing?
Oh, they are really good.
Yeah, I like to end a warm and fuzzy note. It's nice.
Why don't you start with your best moments? And
well, I think Sophie touched on, like, my favourite moments are getting to the bottom of a really tricky plot problem and fixing it, especially with like psychological thrillers or anything like that. There's this moment where you and the author might have found a little speed bump and you're trying to untangle it. That's me mixing my metaphors. That's why I'm not a writer, but and there's something so satisfying about doing that, and it's just everything I love. And then the most rewarding moments I find are when I see a book on a bookshelf, or an author that I've worked with wins a prize, or anything like that, that just rewards the author for all their hard work, because you really see it all. You see all the blood, sweat and tears that go into something. So when a book hits and people love it and they buy it, and the author gets, all the kudos that every author deserves, that's a really special moment, I think.
Mine's a little bit similar but different. What I still really get most excited about is reading a book for the first time, particularly pre-acquisition. And I have a really scientific way of deciding if a book is brilliant, and it's when I get hairs on my arms rising and the book is so good that I can't breathe. I get really excited, and I start imagining all the readers who will love this book as much as I do. And then what I really love about that is following that sense of excitement that you feel when you read a book on acquisition, and infecting everyone with it, affecting your colleagues. I love it when internally people start raving about a book. They can't stop talking about a book. They can't shut up about a book. And then that infection goes out of the business. And then all of a sudden readers can't stop reading and talking about a book. And that still, after too many years to mention in publishing, still makes me get out of bed every day because I never know when it's going to cross my desk, that really book. And they happen quite a lot. You know, lots of special books pass our desk and we get that sense of excitement. So that never gets boring.
Yeah, you've done it now. It's just goosebumps. It's a very special thing to be a part of, I think. Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much, Brigid. That is all we've got time for tonight. I wanted to thank you so much for joining us. So many of you have stayed with us for the whole presentation, which is amazing. And I really hope that some of you or many of you will be inspired to apply for our paid internship program either this year or next year. Hopefully when the world calms down a little bit, it will be a bit easier. We also, I'm very excited to announce, have a career opening in the Marketing Communications Division for a Publicity Coordinator. It's a full-time permanent position based in Sydney. This is a job for someone who's interested in the media landscape and excited by the potential of social media for promotion. It will allow you to work collaboratively with senior members of the publicity team to develop creative campaigns and will put to good use your time management, problem solving and networking skills. There are full details of the internship, the publicity coordinator role and a guide to the publishing booklet on the careers page of Hachette Australia website. In the meantime, if you want to learn more about publishing, follow Hachette Australia on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn and Instagram and watch these platforms. We will be posting a recording of this event if you've missed part of it or want to rewatch it. Thank you again for your time and have a lovely evening. Tonight is the perfect night to snuggle up with a great book. And remember, for a career in publishing, a love of reading is what we're really looking for. Take care. Bye.
Bye.